Week 39. Luke 5-10.
Luke 5, 1. Now it happened that when the crowd gathered around him to hear the word of YEHOVAH, and he was standing on the side of the lake of Gennesaret 2. He saw 2 ships that stood on the shore of the lake, and the fishermen who had come down from them and were washing their nets. 3. And one of them belonged to Shimei and Kepha, and Yeshua went up and sat down in it, and he said to take it out a little from the land into the water, and he sat down, and he taught the crowds from the ship. 4. And when he had ceased speaking, he said to Shimeon, take to the deep and cast your nets for a catch. 5. Shimeon answered and he said to him, Rabbi, we worked all night, and we have not caught anything, but at your word, I will cast the net. 6. And when they had done this, they caught very many fish, and the net was breaking. 7. And they beckoned to their partners who were in another ship to come help them, and when they came, they filled those 2 ships, so that they were almost sinking. 8. And when Shimei and Kepha saw it, he fell before the feet of Yeshua, and he said to him, I beg you, my Elo-heem, abandon me, for I am a sinner. 9. For awe had seized him and all of them who were with him, due to that catch of fish which they had caught. 10. Likewise also Jacob and Johanan, sons of Zebedee, who were partners of Shimeon, but Yeshua said to Shimeon, do not be afraid, from now on, you will be catching men for salvation. 11. And they brought those ships to land, and they left everything and they came after him. 12. And when Yeshua was in one of the cities, a certain man who was full of leprosy came in and saw Yeshua, and he fell down on his face, and he begged of him, and he said to him, my Elo-heem, if you are willing, you can purify me. 13. And Yeshua reached his hand and he touched him and he said, I am willing, be purified. And immediately his leprosy went from him and he was purified. 14. And he commanded him, tell no man, but go show yourself to the priest and offer for your cleansing, just as Moses commanded, for their testimony. 15. And fame went out about him increasingly, and many people were gathered to hear from him and to be healed of their sicknesses. 16. But he was departing to the wilderness and praying. 17. And it happened on one of the days when Yeshua was teaching, the Pharisees and the teachers of the law were sitting who had come from every village of Galilee, and of Judea, and of Jerusalem, and the power of Elohim YEHOVAH was there to heal them. 18. And men brought a man on a pallet who was paralyzed, and they were seeking to enter to place him in front of him. 19. And when they found no way to bring him in because of the crowd of people, they went up by themselves to the roof, and lowered him with the pallet from the tiles into the center, in front of Yeshua. 20. But when Yeshua saw their faith, he said to that paralyzed man, man, your sins are forgiven you. 21. And the scribes and Pharisees began to think, and they were saying, who is this who speaks blasphemy? Who is able to forgive sins except YEHOVAH alone? 22. But Yeshua knew their thoughts, he answered and said to them, what thoughts are entertained by you in your heart? 23. Which is easier? To say, your sins are forgiven you, or to say, arise and walk? 24. But that you may know that the Son of Man is authorized in the earth to forgive sins, he said to the paralyzed man, I say to you, arise, pick up your pallet and go to your house. 25. And at once he arose before their eyes and took up his pallet, and he went on to his house as he praised YEHOVAH. 26. And astonishment seized everyone, and they were praising YEHOVAH, and they were filled with awe, and they were saying, we have seen wonders today. 27. After these things Yeshua went out, and he saw a tax collector whose name was Levi, who sat in the house of customs, and he said to him, come after me. 28. And he left everything, and rising, he went after him. 29. And Levi made a great reception for him in his house, and there was a great crowd of tax gatherers, and of others who were reclining at dinner with them. 30. And the scribes and the Pharisees were complaining, and they were saying to his disciples, why do you eat and drink with the tax collectors and sinners? 31. And Yeshua answered, and he said to them, a doctor is not sought for the healthy, but for those who become very ill. 32. I have not come, that I may call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. 33. But they were saying to him, why do the disciples of Johanan fast faithfully and pray, also the Pharisees, but yours are eating and drinking? 34. But he said to them, you cannot make the children of the bridal chamber fast, as long as the groom is with them. 35. But the days will come when the groom will be taken from them, and then they will fast in those days. 36. And he told them a parable, no man tears a strip from a new garment, and places it on a worn garment, lest also the new tears the worn, and it does not resemble the strip from the new piece. 37. And no man places new wine in old wineskins, lest the new wine should burst the skins and the wine is spilled, and the skins are ruined. 38. But new wine is placed in new wineskins and both are preserved. 39. And no man drinks old wine, and at once desires the new, for he says, the old is sweet. Luke 6, 1. Now it happened on the Sabbath when Yeshua was walking among the grain, his disciples were plucking the ears and were rubbing them in their hands and eating them. 2. But some of the Pharisees were saying to them, "Why are you doing what is illegal to do on the Sabbath?" 3. Yeshua answered and said to them, "Have you not read this thing that David did when he was hungry and those who were with him?" 4. When he entered the house of YEHOVAH and he took and ate the bread of the table of Elo-heem YEHOVAH, and he gave to those who were with him, which was not legal to eat except for the priests only. 5. And he said to them, "The Son of Man is master of the Sabbath." 6. But it happened on another Sabbath that he entered a synagogue and he was teaching, and a man was there whose right hand was shriveled. 7. And the scribes and the Pharisees were watching him whether he would heal on the Sabbath, that they might be able to accuse him. 8. But he knew their schemes and he said to that man whose hand was shriveled, "Stand, come to the center of the synagogue," and when he came and stood. 9. Yeshua said to them, "I ask you, what is legal on the Sabbath? To do good or evil? To save life or to destroy?" 10. And he gazed at all of them and he said to him, "Straighten your hand," and he stretched it out, and his hand was restored like his other. 11. But they were filled with envy, and they were speaking one with another of what they should do to Yeshua. 12. But it occurred in those days that Yeshua went out to a mountain to pray, and there he was waiting for the morning in the prayer of YEHOVAH. 13. And when it was dawn he called his disciples, and he chose 12 of them, whom he named apostles. 14. Shimeon, whom he named Kepha, and Andrew was his brother, Jacob and Johanan and Philippus and Bartolome. 15. And Mattay and Thoma and Jacob bar Helphi, Shimeon who is called the Zealot. 16. And Yehuda bar Jacob and Yehuda Iscariota who was the traitor. 17. And Yeshua descended with them, and he stood in the valley and a great crowd of his disciples, and a multitude of crowds of people from all of Judea and from Jerusalem, and from the sea coast of Tyre and Sidon. 18. Who came to hear his message and to be healed of their sicknesses, and those who were afflicted by foul spirits, and they were healed. 19. And all the crowds were seeking to touch him, for power was proceeding from him, and it was healing all of them. 20. And he lifted his eyes upon his disciples and he said, "Blessed are you poor ones, because yours is the kingdom of YEHOVAH." 21. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you shall be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you shall laugh. 22. Blessed are you, whenever men shall hate you and shall separate you and shall insult you, and shall cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. 23. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for your reward is great in heaven, for so were their fathers doing to the prophets. 24. But woe to you rich men, for you have received your comfort. 25. Woe to you satisfied ones, for you shall hunger. Woe to you who are laughing now, for you shall weep and you shall wail. 26. Woe to you when men shall say wonderful things about you, for so were their fathers doing to the false prophets. 27. But I say to you who are hearing, love your enemies and do what is wonderful to those who hate you. 28. Bless those who curse you, and pray over those who take you away by force. 29. And to him who strikes you on your cheek, offer the other, and from whoever takes away your cloak, withhold not your coat also. 30. Give to everyone who asks you and do not demand from him who takes what is yours. 31. And just as you desire people to do for you, do also for them. 32. For if you love those who love you, what goodness do you have? Even sinners love those who love them. 33. And if you are doing good to those who treat you well, what goodness do you have? For even sinners do likewise. 34. And if you lend to him from whom you expect to be repaid, what goodness do you have? For even sinners lend to sinners to be repaid likewise. 35. But love your enemies and treat them well and lend and do not cut off the hope of any person, and your reward shall be great, and you shall be the children of the highest, because he is kind toward the evil and toward the unbelievers. 36. Be therefore merciful, just as also your Father is merciful. 37. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven. 38. Give and it will be given to you in good measure, pressed down and overflowing, they shall cast into your lap. For with what measure you measure it will be measured to you. 39. And he told them a parable. Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will not both of them fall into a ditch? 40. There is no disciple greater than his mentor, for everyone who is perfected shall be like his mentor. 41. But why do you observe a chip in the eye of your brother, but you do not see the plank that is in your eye? 42. Or how can you say to your brother, my brother, let me cast the chip out from your eye, when behold, the plank that is in your own eye is not visible to you? Hypocrite. First cast out the plank from your own eye, and then sight will be given to you to pull out the chip from your brother's eye. 43. There is not a good tree that produces bad fruit, neither a bad tree that produces good fruit. 44. For every tree is known by its fruits, for they do not pick figs from thorns, neither do they gather grapes from a bush. 45. A good man brings forth good from the good treasure that is in his heart, and the evil man brings out evil from the evil treasure that is in his heart. For the lips speak from the fullness of the heart. 46. Why are you calling me, my Elohim, and you are not doing whatever I say? 47. Every person who comes to me and has heard my words and does them, I shall show you what he is like. 48. He is like a man who built a house and he dug, and he went deep and laid the foundation on the rock, and when there was a flood, the flood beat on that house, and it could not shake it, for its foundation was founded on the rock. 49. And he who heard and did not do it is like the man who built his house on the soil without a foundation, and when the river beat on it, immediately it fell, and the fall of that house was great. Luke 7. 1. And when he had finished all these words before the audience of the people, Yeshua entered Capernaum. 2. But the servant of a certain centurion who was precious to him had become ill, and he had come near to death. 3. And he had heard about Yeshua, and he sent elders of the Jews to him, and he was begging him to come and save the life of his servant. 4. But when they came to Yeshua, they were seeking from him diligently, and they were saying, He is worthy that you should do this for him. 5. For he loves our nation and also has built a synagogue for us. 6. And Yeshua was going with them, and when he was not very far from the house, the centurion sent his friends, and he said to him, My Elohim, you should not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof. 7. Therefore, I was not worthy to come to you, but say in a word and my boy will be healed. 8. For I am also a man who is put under authority, and I have soldiers under my hand, and I say to this one, Go, and he goes, and to another, Come, and he comes, and unto my servant, Do this, and he does it. 9. But when Yeshua heard these things, he was amazed at him, and he turned, and he said to the crowd that came after him, I say to you that not even in the house of Israel have I found faith like this. 10. And those who had been sent returned to the house, and they found that the servant who had been sick was already well. 11. And it happened the day after, he went to the city whose name was Nain, and his disciples were with him and the great crowds. 12. And when he approached the gate of the city, he saw as a dead man was being escorted who had been the only son of his mother, and his mother was a widow, and many of the people of the city had assembled with her. 13. But Yeshua saw her and he was moved with pity for her, and he said to her, Do not weep. 14. And he went and touched the pallet, and those who were bearing it stood still, and he said, Young man, I say to you, arise. 15. And he who had died sat up and began to speak, and he gave him to his mother. 16. And awe gripped all the people, and they were glorifying YEHOVAH, and they were saying, A great prophet is arisen among us, and YEHOVAH has visited his people. 17. And this word about him went out in all Judah and in all the region that was around them. 18. And his disciples revealed all these things to Yohanan. 19. And Yohanan called 2 of his disciples, and he sent them to Yeshua, and he said, Are you the one who is coming, or are we waiting for another? 20. And they came to Yeshua, and they were saying to him, Yohanan the baptizer has sent us to you, and he said, Are you the one who is coming, or are we waiting for another? 21. But in that hour, he healed many from diseases and from plagues and of evil spirits, and he gave sight to many blind people. 22. And Yeshua answered and he said to them, Go tell Yohanan everything that you have seen and that you have heard, that they who were blind are seeing, and they who were lame are walking, and they who were lepers are cleansed, and they who were deaf are hearing, and they who were dead are raised, and those who were poor are given good news. 23. And blessed is he, whoever will not take offense at me. 24. But when the disciples of Yohanan left, he began to say to the crowds about Yohanan, What did you go out to the wilderness to see? A reed being shaken by the wind. 25. But what did you go out to see? A man who is clothed in soft garments. Behold, those who are in glorious clothing and in luxury are in a king's house. 26. But what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I say to you, and more than a prophet. 27. This is he about whom it is written, Behold, I am sending my messenger before your face to prepare the way before you. 28. I say to you, there is not a prophet among those born of women who was greater than Yohanan the baptizer, but a little one in the kingdom of YEHOVAH is greater than he. 29. And all the people who heard and also the tax collectors justified YEHOVAH, for they had been baptized by the baptism of Yohanan. 30. But the Pharisees and the scribes rejected the will of YEHOVAH in their souls, because they were not baptized by him. 31. To what therefore shall I compare the men of this generation, and what does it resemble? 32. It is like boys sitting in the street, and calling their friends and saying, We sang to you and you did not dance, and we howled to you and you did not cry. 33. For Yohanan the baptizer came not eating bread neither drinking wine, and you were saying, He has a demon. 34. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and you were saying, Behold, a man a glutton and a drinker of wine and a friend of tax collectors and of sinners. 35. and wisdom is justified by all its works. 36. But one of the Pharisees came asking him to eat with him, and he entered the Pharisee's house, and he reclined. 37. And a sinner woman who was in the city, when she knew that he was staying in the Pharisee's house, she took an alabaster vase of ointment. 38. And she stood behind him at his feet, and she was weeping, and she began washing his feet with her tears and wiping them with the hair of her head. And she was kissing his feet and anointing them with ointment. 39. But when that Pharisee who had invited him saw, he thought within himself and he said, if this one were a prophet, he would have known who she is, and what her reputation is, for she is a sinner woman who touched him. 40. But Yeshua answered and he said to him, Shimeon, I have something to tell you. But he said to him, say it, Rabbi. And Yeshua said to him, 41. One landowner had 2 debtors, one debtor owed him 500 denarii, and the other 50 denarii. 42. And because they had nothing to pay he forgave both of them. Which of them therefore will love him more? 43. Shimeon answered and he said, I suppose he who was forgiven most. Yeshua said to him, you have judged correctly. 44. And he turned to that woman and he said to Shimeon, do you see this woman? I entered your house, yet you gave no water for my feet, and she has washed my feet with her tears, and has wiped them with her hair. 45. You did not kiss me, but look, from when she entered, she has not ceased to kiss my feet. 46. You did not anoint my head with oil, but this one has anointed my feet with oil of ointment. 47. On account of this, I say to you, that her many sins are forgiven her because she loved much, but he who is forgiven a little loves a little. 48. And he said to her, woman, your sins are forgiven you. 49. But they who were reclining said in their souls, who is this that he even forgives sins? 50. But Yeshua said to that woman, your faith has given you life, go in peace. Luke 8. 1. It happened after these things that Yeshua was traveling a circuit in the cities and villages, and preaching and announcing the kingdom of YEHOVAH, and his 12 were with him. 2. And these women who had been healed from sicknesses and from evil spirits. Miriam who is called Magdalitha, she from whom 7 demons had gone out. 3. And Johanna the wife of Chuza, the steward of Herodas, and Shushan and many others who were ministering to them of their possessions. 4. And when a great crowd had gathered, and they were coming to him from all the cities, he said in a parable. 5. A sower went out to sow his seed, and as he sowed, there was that which fell on the side of the road, and it was trampled, and a bird ate it. 6. And other seed fell on the rock, and in an hour it sprang up, and because there was no moisture for it, it dried up. 7. And other seed fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up with it, and they choked it. 8. Other seed fell in good and excellent ground, and it sprang up and produced fruit 100-fold. And when he had said these things, he cried, he that has an ear to hear, let him hear. 9. And his disciples asked him, what is this parable? 10. But he said to them, it has been given to you to know the secret of the kingdom of YEHOVAH, but to those others, it is spoken in an allegory, that while seeing they will not perceive, and when hearing, they will not understand. 11. But this is the parable. The seed is the word of YEHOVAH. 12. But those upon the side of the road are they who hear the word, and the enemy comes and takes the word from their heart, lest they should believe and they should live. 13. But these upon the rock are they, who when they have heard, they receive the word with joy, and there is no root in them, but their faith is temporary, and in time of temptation they are subverted. 14. But these which fell among thorns are those who hear the word and by cares, and by riches and the desires of the world, they are choked, and they yield no fruit. 15. But these which are on the good ground are those who hear the word with a pure and good heart, and they hold on to it, and they yield fruit with patience. 16. No man lights a lamp and covers it with a vessel or sets it under a bed, but he sets it upon a lampstand that everyone who enters may see its light. 17. For there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, neither hidden that will not be made known and come into the open. 18. Take heed how you hear. Whoever has it, it will be given to him, and whoever does not have it, also that which he thinks he has will be taken from him. 19. But his mother and his brothers came to him, and they were not able to speak with him, because of the crowd. 20. They said to him, your mother and your brothers are standing outside, and they desire to see you. 21. But he answered and said to them, these are my mother and my brothers, those who are hearing the word of YEHOVAH and are practicing it. 22. But it was on one of those days, Yeshua went up and sat down in the boat, he and his disciples, and he told them, let us cross to the other side of the lake. 23. And as he journeyed, Yeshua himself was asleep, and there was a tempest of wind on the lake, and the ship was coming close to sinking. 24. And they came and they awakened him and they were saying to him, our master, we are being destroyed. But he arose and rebuked the wind and the waves of the seas, and they ceased, and there was calm. 25. And he said to them, where is your faith? But they, being in awe, were marveling, and they were saying one to another, Who is this, truly, who commands even the wind, the waves and the sea, and they obey him? 26. And they sailed and they came to the region of the Gadarenes which is on the other side next to Galilee. 27. And when he unboarded to land, a man met him from the city who had a demon in him for a long time. He was not wearing clothes, and he was not living in a house, but among the tombs. 28. And when he saw Yeshua, he screamed and he fell before him, and with a loud voice, he said, What business do we have with you, Yeshua, the Son of Jehovah Most High? I beg of you, do not punish me. 29. For Yeshua had commanded the vile spirit to go out from the man, as it had possessed him for a long time. And he had been kept bound in chains and in shackles, and he would burst his bonds, and he would be driven by the demon into the desert. 30. But Yeshua asked him, What is your name? But he said to him, Legion, because many demons had entered him. 31. And they were begging him that he would not command them to enter the abyss. 32. Now a herd of many swine was there grazing on the mountain, and they were begging him to permit them to enter the swine, and he permitted them. 33. And the demons went out from the man and they entered the swine, and the whole herd went straight to the precipice, and they fell into the lake and drowned. 34. But when the herdsmen saw what happened, they fled, and they related it in the city and in the villages. 35. And people went out to see the thing that happened, and they came to Yeshua, and they found that man, whose demons had gone out, being clothed, sober and sitting at the feet of Yeshua, and they were in awe. 36. And those who had seen it related to them how the demoniac man had been healed. 37. And the crowds of Gadarenes were all begging him that he would go from them, because great fear had seized them, and he, Yeshua, embarked the ship and returned from among them. 38. But that man from whom the demons had gone out was begging him that he might join him, and Yeshua dismissed him, and he said to him. 39. Return to your house and relate the thing that Yehovah has done for you. And he went on, and he was preaching in the whole city the thing that Yeshua had done for him. 40. But when Yeshua returned, a great crowd received him, for they had all been looking for him. 41. And one man whose name was Yorash, head of the synagogue, fell before the feet of Yeshua, and he begged him to enter his house. 42. For he had an only daughter, about 12 years old, and she was about to die, and when Yeshua went with him a great crowd was pressing him. 43. Now there was certain woman whose blood had flowed 12 years, who spent all her property among physicians, and she could not be healed by anyone. 44. She approached him from behind, and she touched the fringe of his garment, and immediately the flow of her blood stopped. 45. And Yeshua said, Who touched me? And when everyone denied, Shimei and Kepha and those with him said to him, Our master, the crowds are pressing close to you, and they are pushing and you say, Who touched me? 46. But he said, Someone has touched me, for I know that power has gone out from me. 47. When the woman saw that she had not escaped his notice, she came trembling, and she fell and she worshipped him, and she told before the eyes of all the people for what cause she had touched him, and how she had been healed immediately. 48. But Yeshua said to her, Take heart, my daughter, your faith has given you life, go in peace. 49. And while he was speaking, the man who was of the house of the leader of the synagogue came and he said to him, Your daughter has died, do not trouble the teacher. 50. But Yeshua heard and he said to the father of the girl, Do not be afraid, only have faith, and she will live. 51. But Yeshua came to the house, and he did not allow anyone to enter with him except Shimeon, Yaakov, Yohanan, the father of the girl and her mother. 52. And all of them were weeping and wailing over her, but Yeshua said, Stop weeping, for she is not dead, but she is sleeping. 53. And they were laughing at him, for they knew that she had died. 54. But he sent everyone outside and he held her by her hand and he called her, and he said, Little girl, arise. 55. And her spirit returned, and at once she arose, and he commanded them to give her food. 56. And her parents were staggered, but he warned them not to tell anyone what had happened. Luke 9. 1. And Yeshua called the 12, and he gave power to them and authority over all demons and diseases to heal the sick. 2. And he sent them to preach the kingdom of Yehovah and to heal the sick. 3. And he said to them, You shall take nothing for the road, no staff, neither money bag, nor bread, nor money, neither 2 tunics will be with you. 4. And whatever house you enter, stay there and from there go out. 5. And whoever does not receive you, whenever you leave that city, shake off even the sand of your feet against them for a testimony. 6. And the apostles went out and were walking around in the villages and cities, and they were preaching the good news and healing in every place. 7. But Herodas the Tetrarch heard all the things that were being done by his hand, and he was amazed because the people were saying, Yohanan has arisen from among the dead. 8. But others were saying, Elijah has appeared, and others, a prophet among the ancient prophets has risen. 9. And Herod said, I have cut off the head of Yohanan, but who is this about whom I have heard these things? And he wanted to see him. 10. And when the apostles returned, they were relating to Yeshua everything that they had done, and he took them by themselves to a deserted region of Bethsaida. 11. But when the crowds knew, they went after him and he received them and he was speaking with them about the kingdom of Yehovah, and those who were in need of healing he healed. 12. But when the day began to decline, his disciples came and they were saying to him, dismiss the crowds that they go to the surrounding villages and hamlets to lodge in them, and to find provisions for themselves, because we are in a deserted place. 13. Yeshua said to them, you give them food. But they were saying, we don't have more than 5 loaves and 2 fish, unless we go and buy provisions for this entire people. 14. For there remained about 5,000 men, and Yeshua said, make them recline by groups of 50 men in a group. 15. And the disciples did so and they made them all recline. 16. And Yeshua took those 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he gazed into heaven, and he blessed and he broke, and he gave to his disciples to set before the crowds. 17. And they all ate and were satisfied, and they took up the fragments that remained, 12 large baskets. 18. And when he was praying alone, and his disciples were with him, he asked them and he said, what is it the crowds are saying about me, who I am? 19. They answered and they were saying to him, Yohanan the baptizer, and others, Elijah, and others, a prophet, one of the ancient prophets has risen. 20. But he said to them, who is it you are saying that I am? Shimeon answered and he said, the Messiah of Yehovah. 21. But he admonished them and he warned them that they should not say this to anyone. 22. And he said to them, the Son of Man is going to suffer many things and to be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and scribes, and they will murder him, and on the 3rd day he will arise. 23. And he said before everyone, whoever is willing to come after me, let him deny himself, let him take up his cross every day, and let him come after me. 24. For whoever wills to save his soul, destroys it, but whoever will give up his soul for my sake, this one saves it. 25. For how would a man benefit to gain the whole world, but destroy his soul or lose it? 26. Whoever will be ashamed of me and of my words, of that one will the Son of Man be ashamed whenever he comes in the glory of his Father with his holy angels. 27. I tell you the truth, there are men who stand here who will not partake of death until they behold the kingdom of Yehovah. 28. But it happened after these words, about 8 days later, Yeshua took Shimeon and Jacob and Yohanan, and he went up a mountain to pray. 29. And as he prayed, the appearance of his face was transfigured, and his garments became white, and they were shining. 30. And behold, 2 men were speaking with him, who are Moses and Elijah. Who appeared in glory, but they were speaking about his exodus which was going to be fulfilled in Jerusalem. 32. And Shimeon and those with him were groggy with sleep, and they awakened with difficulty, and they saw his glory and those 2 men who were standing with him. 33. And when they began to part from him, Shimeon said to Yeshua, Rabbi, it is beautiful for us to be here. Let us make 3 tabernacles. 1 for you, 1 for Moses, and 1 for Elijah. And he did not know what he said. 34. And as he said these things, there was a cloud that formed a tabernacle about them, and they were afraid when they beheld Moses and Elijah who entered into the cloud. 35. And there was a voice from the cloud that said, This is my son, the beloved, hear him. 36. And when the voice had occurred, Yeshua was found alone, and they were silent and told no man in those days what they had seen. 37. And it occurred the day after as they descended from the mountain, a great crowd met them. 38. And one man from that crowd called and he said, Teacher, I beg you, restore my son to me, he is the only child I have. 39. And a spirit suddenly comes upon him, and suddenly he screams and gnashes his teeth and becomes ill, and it departs from him with difficulty whenever it attacks him. 40. And I begged of your disciples to cast it out and they could not. 41. Then Yeshua answered and said, O generation without faith and perverse. How long shall I be with you and endure you? Bring your son here. 42. And when he came near to him that demon threw him down and convulsed him. And Yeshua rebuked the foul spirit and he healed the boy and he gave him to his father. 43. And they were all astonished at the majesty of Yehovah, and as everyone was marveling at everything that Yeshua did, he said to his disciples. 44. Put these words in your ears, for the Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. 45. They did not understand the saying because it was hidden from them lest they should perceive it, and they were afraid to ask him about this saying. 46. And deliberation entered among them of who was great among them. 47. But Yeshua knew the thought of their heart, and he took a boy and he stood him by him. 48. And he said to them, whoever receives a boy like this one in my name, that one receives me, and whoever receives me receives the one who sent me, for whoever is least among you all, this one will be great. 49. And Yohanan answered and said, Our master, we saw a man who cast out a demon in your name, and we forbade him, for he does not come after you with us. 50. Yeshua said to them, You shall not forbid, for whoever is not against you is for you. 51. And it was that when the days of his ascent were fulfilled, he prepared himself to go to Jerusalem. 52. And he sent messengers before his presence, and they went and entered a village of the Samaritans, so as to prepare for him. 53. And they did not receive him because his person was determined to go to Jerusalem. 54. And when Jacob and Yohanan his disciples saw it, they were saying to him, Our Lord, do you want us to speak, and fire will descend from heaven, and will consume them as Elijah also did? 55. And he turned and he rebuked them and he said, You do not know of which spirit you are. 56. For the Son of Man has not come to destroy lives, but to give life. And they went to other villages. 57. And as they were going on the road, a man said to him, I shall come after you to the place that you will go, my Lord. 58. Yeshua said to him, Foxes have dens and birds of the sky have shelters, but the Son of Man does not have a place to lay his head. 59. And he said to another, Come after me. But he said to him, My Lord, permit me first to go bury my father. 60. And Yeshua said to him, Let the dead bury their dead, and you go announce the kingdom of YEHOVAH. 61. And another said to him, I shall come after you, my Lord, but permit me first to say goodbye to my children, and I shall come. 62. Yeshua said to him, No man lays his hands to the blade of the plow and gazes behind him, and is fit for the kingdom of YEHOVAH. Luke 10. 1. After these things Yeshua appointed another 70 of his disciples, and he sent them 2 by 2 before his presence to every place and city where he was prepared to go. 2. And he said to them, The harvest is great and the workers are few, pray therefore the Elo-heem of the harvest to send workers to his harvest. 3. Go, behold, I am sending you as sheep among wolves. 4. You shall not take for yourselves money bags, nor wallets, nor sandals, and do not greet a man on the road. 5. And to whatever house you enter, first say, Peace to this house. 6. And if a son of peace is there, your peace shall rest upon it, but if not, it will return to you. 7. But stay in that house while you are eating and drinking of what is theirs, for the worker is worthy of his fare, and do not move from house to house. 8. And whatever city you enter, and they receive you, eat anything that is offered to you. 9. And heal those who are sick in it and say to them, The kingdom of YEHOVAH has come near to you. 10. But whichever city you enter and they will not receive you, go out to the street and say. 11. Even the sand that cleaves to our feet from your city we wipe off unto you, yet know this, the kingdom of YEHOVAH has come near to you. 12. I say to you that it shall be pleasant for Sodom in that day, compared to that city. 13. Woe to you Chorazin, woe to you Bethsaida, because if the miracles had occurred in Tyre and Sidon that have occurred in you, they doubtless would have repented in sackcloth and in ashes. 14. Yet for Tyre and for Sidon, it shall be pleasant in the day of judgment compared to you. 15. And you Capernaum, she that was exalted unto heaven, you shall be debased unto Sheol. 16. Whoever listens to you listens to me, and whoever rejects you, rejects me, and whoever rejects me rejects the one who sent me. 17. And those 70 whom he had sent returned with great joy, and they were saying to him, Our Elo-heem, even the demons are subject to us in your name. 18. But he said to them, I was beholding Satan himself who fell like lightning from heaven. 19. Behold, I have given you authority that you may tread on snakes and scorpions and all the power of the enemy, and nothing will harm you. 20. However, you should not rejoice in this, that the demons are subject to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. 21. And in that hour Yeshua triumphed in the spirit of holiness, and he said, I thank you, my Father, Elo-heem of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and learned, and have revealed them to infants. Yes, my Father, for thus it was a pleasure before you. 22. And he turned to his disciples and he said to them, Everything has been delivered to me from my Father, and no man knows who the Son is except the Father only, and who the Father is except the Son, and he to whom the Son will be pleased to reveal him. 23. And he turned to his disciples by themselves and he said, Blessed are those eyes that are seeing whatever you are seeing. 24. For I say to you that many prophets and kings have desired to see the things that you are seeing, and they have not seen, and to hear the things that you are hearing and they have not heard. 25. And behold, a scribe arose to test him, and he said, Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? 26. But Yeshua said to him, How is it written in the law? How do you read it? 27. He answered and he said to him, You shall love Elo-heem Jehovah your Jehovah from all your heart and from all your soul and from all your strength and from all your mind and your neighbor as yourself. 28. Yeshua said to him, "You have said correctly, do this and you shall live." 29. But as he wanted to justify himself, he said to him, "And who is my neighbor?" 30. Yeshua said to him, "A certain man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and robbers fell upon him, and they plundered and beat him and left him when little life remained in him, and they departed." 31. And it happened a certain priest was going down that road, and he saw him and passed by. 32. And so also a Levite coming arrived at that place, and he saw him and he passed by. 33. But a Samaritan man as he traveled came where he was and he saw him and he took pity on him. 34. And he came and bound his wounds and poured wine and oil on them and set him on his donkey, and he took him to an inn and cared for him. 35. And at the break of day, he produced 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper, and he said to him, "Take care of him, and if you spend anything more, whenever I return I will give it to you." 36. Who therefore of these 3 appears to you to have been a neighbor to him who fell into the hands of the robbers? 37. But he said, "He who took pity on him." Yeshua said to him, "You go and do likewise." 38. And it was that when they were traveling on a road, he entered a certain village, and a woman whose name was Martha received him into her house. 39. And she had a sister, whose name was Miriam, and she came and sat herself at the feet of our Elo-heem, and she was listening to his words. 40. But Martha was busy with serving many things, and she came and said to him, "My Elo-heem, does it not concern you that my sister has left me alone to serve? Tell her to help me." 41. But Yeshua answered and said to her, "Martha, Martha, you take pains and are troubled about many things." 42. But one thing is necessary, Miriam has chosen that good part for herself which will not be taken away from her.
Hebrews 11-13.
Hebrews 11. 1. Now faith is the conviction concerning those things that are in hope, as if it were these things in action, and the revelation of those things that are unseen. 2. And by this there was a testimony concerning the ancients. 3. For by faith we understand that the worlds were fashioned by the word of YEHOVAH, and these things that are seen came into being out of those things which are unseen. 4. By faith, Abel offered to YEHOVAH a sacrifice much better than that of Cain, and because of it there is a testimony concerning him that he was righteous, and YEHOVAH testifies concerning his offering, and because of it, although he died, he also speaks. 5. By faith, Enoch was transported away and he did not taste death, neither was he found, because YEHOVAH transported him away, for before he was to transport him, there was this testimony concerning him. He pleased YEHOVAH. 6. But without faith, no one can please YEHOVAH, for whoever is brought near to YEHOVAH must believe that he exists, and that he is the rewarder of those who seek him. 7. By faith, Noah worshipped, when those things which had not been seen were spoken to him, and he made the ark for the lives of his children and his household, by which he condemned the world, and he became the heir of the righteousness which is in faith. 8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called, obeyed to go out to the place that he was going to receive for an inheritance, and he went out when he did not know where he was going. 9. By faith he became an inhabitant in that land which was promised to him, as in a foreign land, and he dwelt in tents with Isaac and Jacob, his heirs of the promise. 10. For he was looking for the city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is YEHOVAH. 11. By faith also Sarah, who was sterile, received power to conceive seed, and she who was not in the time of her years gave birth, for she was sure that he who promised her was faithful. 12. Because of this, from one who was failing in old age, were born as many as the stars in the heavens, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, which has no measure. 13. These died in faith, all of them, and they did not receive their promise, but they saw it from a distance and rejoiced in it, and confessed that they were foreigners and nomads in the earth. 14. But those who say these things show that they seek their city. 15. And if they had been seeking that city which they had left, they had time to return again to it. 16. Now it is apparent that they longed for better than that, which is in heaven. Because of this, YEHOVAH is not ashamed to be called their YEHOVAH, for he has prepared a city for them. 17. By faith, Abraham offered Isaac during his testing, and laid his only son on the altar, whom he had received by the promise. 18. For it was said to him, "In Isaac your seed shall be called." 19. And he accepted in his soul that YEHOVAH was able to raise him from the dead, and because of this, he was given to him in a simile. 20. By the faith of what was future, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau. 21. By faith, when Jacob was dying, he blessed each one of the sons of Joseph, and bowed on the top of the staff. 22. By faith, when Joseph was dying, he related the exodus of the children of Israel, and gave orders about his bones. 23. By faith, the parents of Moses hid him for 3 months when he was born, when they saw that the boy was beautiful, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. 24. By faith, Moses, when he became a man, renounced being called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. 25. And he chose to remain in affliction with the people of Yehovah and not to enjoy sin for a short time. 26. And he considered that the reproach of the Messiah was much greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt, for he was attentive to the payment of the reward. 27. By faith he forsook Egypt and was not afraid of the rage of the king, and he endured as if he had seen Yehovah, who is unseen. 28. By faith he observed Passover and sprinkled the blood, lest he who was destroying the firstborn should touch them. 29. By faith they passed through the sea of reeds as upon dry land, and the Egyptians were swallowed up by it when they dared to enter it. 30. By faith the walls of Jericho fell, after it was walked around for 7 days. 31. By faith Rahab the harlot did not perish with those who disobeyed, for she received the spies in peace. 32. And what more shall I say? For I have little time to recount about Gideon and about Barak, about Samson, about Jephthah, about David, about Samuel and about the other prophets. 33. Those who by faith conquered kingdoms and wrought justice, received promises and shut the mouths of lions. 34. They quenched the power of fire, were delivered from the edge of the sword, were strengthened out of weakness, became strong in battle, and overturned enemy camps. 35. And they gave women their children by resurrection of the dead, and others died by torture, and did not expect to be delivered, that they would have a better resurrection. 36. Others entered mockings and scourgings, others were handed over to chains and to prison cells. 37. Others were stoned, others were sawn in half, others died by the edge of the sword, others traveled wearing skins of sheep and of goats, and were needy, afflicted and beaten. 38. Persons of whom the world was not worthy, and they were as wanderers in desert places and in mountains and in caves and caverns of the earth. 39. And all of these, concerning whom there is a testimony of their faith, did not receive the promise. 40. Because Yehovah provided for our advantage that they would not be made perfect without us. Hebrews 12. 1. Therefore, we also, who have all of these witnesses who surround us like clouds, let us throw off from us all the weights of the sin which is always ready for us, and let us run with patience this race that is set for us. 2. And let us gaze at Yeshua, him who is the author and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was his, endured the cross and ignored the shame, and he sits upon the right side of the throne of YEHOVAH. 3. Behold, therefore, how much he endured from sinners, those who were themselves opponents to their own souls, so that you do not become careless in yourselves, neither weaken your souls. 4. For you have not yet come as far as to blood in the struggle against sin. 5. And you have strayed from the teaching which speaks to you as to sons. My son, turn not away from the course of Elohim Yehovah, neither neglect your soul when you are rebuked by him. 6. For whomever Elohim Yehovah loves, he instructs, and draws aside his children with whom he is pleased. 7. Therefore endure the discipline, because Yehovah deals with you as with children, for who is the son whom his father does not discipline? 8. And if you are without the discipline by which every person is disciplined, you are strangers and not children. 9. And if our fathers who are in the flesh have disciplined us and we did revere them, how much more therefore ought we submit to the Father of spirits and live? 10. For they, for that short time, disciplined us as they pleased, but Yehovah, for our benefit, that we may share in his holiness. 11. But no discipline in its time seems to be joyful, but it is sorrowful, but in the end it yields the fruit of peace and of righteousness, to those who have been trained by it. 12. Therefore strengthen your hands and set your shaky knees firmly. 13. Make straight paths for your feet, that the lame member may not fail, but that it may be healed. 14. Run after peace with every man, and after holiness, without which no one shall see our Elohim. 15. And be watchful, lest anyone among you be found lacking the grace of Yehovah, or lest the root of bitterness produce vines and harm you, and many be defiled by it. 16. Or lest a man be found among you as a fornicator, or debauched, like Esau, who for one meal sold his birthright. 17. For you know that afterward he desired to inherit the blessing and was rejected, for he found no place of restoration, while he sought it in tears. 18. For you have not approached the fire that burned and was tangible, neither to the darkness and dark fog and the tempest. 19. Neither the sound of the trumpet and the voice of words, which those who heard it refused, so that no more would be spoken with them. 20. For they were not able to endure anything that was commanded. If even an animal shall approach the mountain, it shall be stoned. 21. And so terrible was the sight that Moses said, I am afraid and faint-hearted. 22. But you have come to the mountain of Zion and to the city of the living Yehovah, to the Jerusalem which is in heaven, and to the assembly of myriads of angels. 23. And to the church of the firstborn ones who are written in heaven, and to Yehovah the judge of all, and to the spirits of the righteous who are made perfect. 24. And to Yeshua, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the sprinkling of blood, which speaks better than that of Abel. 25. Beware therefore, lest you refuse him who speaks with you, for if those were not saved who refused him who spoke with them on earth, how much less are we if we shall refuse him who speaks with us from heaven? 26. Whose voice shook the earth, but now he has promised and said, one more time, I shall shake, not only earth, but also heaven. 27. But this that he said, one time, indicates the change of those things that are shaken, because they are made, that those things which are not shaken may remain. 28. Therefore, because we have received the kingdom that is not shaken, we shall receive grace by which we shall serve and please Jehovah in reverence and in awe. 29. For our Jehovah is a consuming fire. Hebrews 13. 1. Let the love of the brethren continue among you. 2. And do not forget kindness to strangers, for by this, some who, while they were unaware, were worthy to receive angels. 3. Remember those who are imprisoned, as if you are imprisoned with them. Call those to mind who are afflicted, as if you are the people who wear their bodies. 4. Marriage is honorable with all and their bed is pure, but fornicators and adulterers YEHOVAH judges. 5. Let not your mind love money, but let whatever you have suffice for you, for Elo-heem Yehovah has said, I shall not forsake you, neither shall I let go of your hand. 6. And it is for us to say confidently, Elo-heem is my helper, I shall not fear what anyone does to me. 7. Be mindful toward your leaders who have spoken with you the word of Yehovah. Consider the results of their conduct and imitate their faith. 8. Yeshua the Messiah, he is yesterday, today and forever. 9. Do not be led to strange and changeable teaching, for it is good that we strengthen our hearts by grace and not with foods, because those who have walked in them have not been helped. 10. But we have an altar from which those who minister in the tabernacle have no authority to eat. 11. For the flesh of these animals, whose blood the high priest brought to the holy place for the sake of sins, was burned outside of the camp. 12. Because of this, Yeshua also suffered outside of the city to sanctify his people by his blood. 13. We also, therefore, should go out to him outside of the camp, while we bear his reproach. 14. For we have no city here that abides, but we look for that which is coming. 15. And through him let us offer sacrifices of praise always to Yehovah, which is the fruit of the lips giving thanks to his name. 16. And do not forget charity and sharing with the poor, for with these sacrifices a man pleases Yehovah. 17. Obey your leaders and submit to them, for they watch for the sake of your souls, as persons who give an account, so that they may do this with joy and not with groans, because that is not advantageous to you. 18. Pray for us, for we trust that we have a good conscience, for we desire in all things to conduct ourselves well. 19. I especially seek of you to do this, that I may return quickly to you. 20. Now Yehovah of peace, who brought forth from the place of the dead the great shepherd of the flock, Yeshua the Messiah our Elo-heem, by the blood of the eternal covenant. 21. Perfect you in every good work to do his will and perform in us whatever is excellent before him by Yeshua the Messiah, to whom is glory to the eternity of eternities. Amen. 22. I beseech of you, my brethren, to be patient in your spirit with the word of exhortation, because I have written to you with brevity. 23. But know that our brother Timotheus has been released, and if he comes soon, I shall see you with him. 24. And invoke the peace of all your leaders and of all the holy ones. All of those who are from Italy invoke your peace. 25. Grace be with all of you. Amen.
Numbers 18.
Numbers 18. 1. And Elo-heem spoke to Aaron, saying, Thou and thy sons and thy father's house shall bear the sins of the holy things, and thou and thy sons shall bear the iniquity of your priesthood. 2. And take to thyself thy brethren the tribe of Levi, the family of thy father, and let them be joined to thee, and let them minister to thee, and thou and thy sons with thee shall minister before the tabernacle of witness. 3. And they shall keep thy charges, and the charges of the tabernacle, only they shall not approach the holy vessels and the altar, so both they and you shall not die. 4. And they shall be joined to thee, and shall keep the charges of the tabernacle of witness, in all the services of the tabernacle, and a stranger shall not approach to thee. 5. And ye shall keep the charges of the holy things, and the charges of the altar, and so there shall not be anger among the children of Israel. 6. And I have taken your brethren the Levites out of the midst of the children of Israel, a present given to Elo-heem, to minister in the services of the tabernacle of witness. 7. And thou and thy sons after thee shall keep up your priestly ministration, according to the whole manner of the altar, and that which is within the veil, and ye shall minister in the services as the office of your priesthood, and the stranger that comes near shall die. 8. And Elo-heem said to Aaron, And, behold, I have given you the charge of the first fruits of all things consecrated to me by the children of Israel, and I have given them to thee as an honor, and to thy sons after thee for a perpetual ordinance. 9. And let this be to you from all the holy things that are consecrated to me, even the burnt offerings, from all their gifts, and from all their sacrifices, and from every trespass offering of theirs, and from all their sin offerings, whatever things they give to me of all their holy things, they shall be thine and thy sons. 10. In the most holy place shall ye eat them, every male shall eat them, thou and thy sons. They shall be holy to thee. 11. And this shall be to you of the first fruits of their gifts, of all the wave offerings of the children of Israel, to thee have I given them, and to thy sons and thy daughters with thee, a perpetual ordinance. Every clean person in thy house shall eat them. 12. Every first offering of oil, and every first offering of wine, their first fruits of corn, whatsoever they may give to Elohim, to thee have I given them. 13. All the first fruits that are in their land, whatsoever they shall offer to Elohim, shall be thine. Every clean person in thy house shall eat them. 14. Every devoted thing among the children of Israel shall be thine. 15. And everything that opens the womb of all flesh, whatsoever they bring to Elohim, whether man or beast, shall be thine. Only the firstborn of men shall be surely redeemed, and thou shalt redeem the firstborn of unclean cattle. 16. And the redemption of them shall be from a month old, their valuation of 5 shekels, it is 20 oboli, according to the holy shekel. 17. But thou shalt not redeem the firstborn of calves and the firstborn of sheep and the firstborn of goats, they are holy. And thou shalt pour their blood upon the altar, and thou shalt offer the fat as a burnt offering for a smell of sweet savor to Elohim. 18. And the flesh shall be thine, as also the breast of the wave offering, and as the right shoulder, it shall be thine. 19. Every special offering of the holy things, whatsoever the children of Israel shall specially offer to Elohim, I have given to thee and to thy sons and to thy daughters with thee, a perpetual ordinance. It is a covenant of salt forever before Elohim, for thee and thy seed after thee. 20. And Elohim said to Aaron, Thou shalt have no inheritance in their land, neither shalt thou have any portion among them, for I am thy portion and thine inheritance in the midst of the children of Israel. 21. And, behold, I have given to the sons of Levi every tithe in Israel for an inheritance for their services, whereinsoever they perform ministry in the tabernacle of witness. 22. And the children of Israel shall no more draw nigh to the tabernacle of witness to incur fatal guilt. 23. And the Levite himself shall perform the service of the tabernacle of witness, and they shall bear their iniquities, it is a perpetual statute throughout their generations, and in the midst of the children of Israel, they shall not receive an inheritance. 24. Because I have given as a distinct portion to the Levites for an inheritance the tithes of the children of Israel, whatsoever they shall offer to Elohim, therefore I said to them, in the midst of the children of Israel, they shall have no inheritance. 25. And Elohim spoke to Moses, saying, 26. Thou shalt also speak to the Levites, and shalt say to them, If ye take the tithe from the children of Israel, which I have given you from them for an inheritance, then shall ye separate from it a heave offering to Elohim, a tenth of the tenth. 27. And your heave offerings shall be reckoned to you as corn from the floor, and an offering from the wine press. 28. So shall ye also separate them from all the offerings of Elohim out of all your tithes, whatsoever ye shall receive from the children of Israel, and ye shall give of them an offering to Elohim to Aaron the priest. 29. Of all your gifts ye shall offer an offering to Elohim, and of every first fruit the consecrated part from it. 30. And thou shalt say to them, When ye shall offer the first fruits from it, then shall it be reckoned to the Levites as produce from the threshing floor, and as produce from the wine press. 31. And ye shall eat it in any place, ye and your families, for this is your reward for your services in the tabernacle of witness. 32. And ye shall not bear sin by reason of it, for ye shall have offered an offering of first fruits from it, and ye shall not profane the holy things of the children of Israel, that ye die not.
Jeremiah 50-51.
Jeremiah 50. 1. The word of Elohim which he spoke against Babylon. 2. Proclaim ye among the Gentiles, and cause the tidings to be heard, and suppress them not. Say ye, Babylon is taken, Belus is confounded, the fearless, the luxurious Merodach is delivered up. 3. For a nation has come up against her from the north, he shall utterly ravage her land, and there shall be none to dwell in it, neither man nor beast. 4. In those days, and at that time, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together, they shall proceed, weeping as they go, seeking Elohim their YEHOVAH. 5. They shall ask the way till they come to Sion, for that way shall they set their face, and they shall come and flee for refuge to Elohim their YEHOVAH, for the everlasting covenant shall not be forgotten. 6. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds thrust them out, they caused them to wander on the mountains. They went from mountain to hill, they forgot their resting place. 7. All that found them consumed them. Their enemies said, Let us not leave them alone, because they have sinned against Elohim. He that gathered their fathers had a pasture of righteousness. 8. Flee ye out of the midst of Babylon, and from the land of the Chaldeans, and go forth, and be as serpents before sleep. 9. For, behold, I stir up against Babylon the gatherings of nations out of the land of the north, and they shall set themselves in array against her. Thence shall she be taken, as the dart of an expert warrior shall not return empty. 10. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied. 11. Because ye rejoiced, and boasted while plundering mine heritage, because ye exulted as calves in the grass, and pushed with the horn as bulls. 12. Your mother is greatly ashamed, your mother that bore you for prosperity is confounded. She is the last of the nations, desolate. 13. By reason of Elohim's anger. It shall not be inhabited, but it shall be all a desolation, and every one that passes through Babylon shall scowl, and they shall hiss at all her plague. 14. Set yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare not your arrows. 15. And prevail against her. Her hands are weakened, her bulwarks are fallen, and her wall is broken down. For it is vengeance from YEHOVAH. Take vengeance upon her, as she has done, do to her. 16. Utterly destroy seed out of Babylon and him that holds a sickle in time of harvest. For fear of the Grecian sword, they shall return every one to his people, and every one shall flee to his own land. 17. Israel is a wandering sheep, the lions have driven him out. The king of Assyria first devoured him, and afterward this king of Babylon has gnawed his bones. 18. Therefore thus saith Elohim, behold, I will take vengeance on the king of Babylon, and upon his land, as I took vengeance on the king of Assyria. 19. And I will restore Israel to his pasture, and he shall feed on Carmel and on Mount Ephraim and in Galad, and his soul shall be satisfied. 20. In those days, and at that time, they shall seek for the iniquity of Israel, and there shall be none, and for the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. For I will be merciful to them that are left. 21. On the land, saith Elohim. Go up against it roughly, and against them that dwell on it. Avenge, O sword, and destroy utterly, saith Elohim, and do according to all that I command thee. 22. A sound of war, and great destruction in the land of the Chaldeans. 23. How is the hammer of the whole earth broken and crushed? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? 24. They shall come upon thee, and thou shalt not know it, Babylon, that thou wilt even be taken captive. Thou art found and taken, because thou didst resist Elohim. 25. Elohim has opened his treasury, and brought forth the weapons of his anger. For Elohim YEHOVAH has a work in the land of the Chaldeans. 26. For her times are come. Open ye her storehouses. Search her as a cave, and utterly destroy her. Let there be no remnant of her. 27. Dry ye up all her fruits, and let them go down to the slaughter. Woe to them! For their day is come, and the time of their retribution. 28. A voice of men fleeing and escaping from the land of Babylon, to declare to Sion the vengeance that comes from Elohim our YEHOVAH. 29. Summon many against Babylon, even every one that bends the bow. Camp against her round about, let no one of her people escape. Render to her according to her works, according to all that she has done, do to her. For she has resisted Elohim, the holy YEHOVAH of Israel. 30. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her warriors shall be cast down, saith Elohim. 31. Behold, I am against thee the haughty one, saith Elohim. For thy day is come, and the time of thy retribution. 32. And thy pride shall fail, and fall, and there shall be no one to set it up again. And I will kindle a fire in her forest, and it shall devour all things round about her. 33. Thus saith Elohim, the children of Israel and the children of Judah have been oppressed. All they that have taken them captive have oppressed them together, for they would not let them go. 34. But their Redeemer is strong, Elohim Almighty is his name. He will enter into judgment with his adversaries, that he may destroy the earth. 35. And he will sharpen a sword against the Chaldeans, and against the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her nobles and upon her wise men. 36. A sword upon her warriors, and they shall be weakened. A sword upon their horses, and upon their chariots. 37. A sword upon their warriors and upon the mixed people in the midst of her, and they shall be as women. A sword upon the treasures, and they shall be scattered upon her water. 38. And they shall be ashamed. For it is a land of graven images, and in the islands, where they boasted. 39. Therefore shall idols dwell in the islands, and the young of monsters shall dwell in it. It shall not be inhabited any more forever. 40. As YEHOVAH overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and the cities bordering upon them, saith Elohim. No man shall dwell there, and no son of man shall sojourn there. 41. Behold, a people comes from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be stirred up from the end of the earth, holding bow and dagger. 42. The people is fierce, and will have no mercy. Their voices shall sound as the sea, they shall ride upon horses, prepared for war, like fire, against thee, O daughter of Babylon. 43. The king of Babylon heard the sound of them, and his hands were enfeebled. Anguish overcame him, pangs as of a woman in travail. 44. Behold, he shall come up as a lion from Jordan to Gethan, for I will speedily drive them from her, and I will set all the youths against her. For who is like me? And who will resist me? And who is this shepherd who will stand before me? 45. Therefore hear ye the counsel of Elohim, which he has taken against Babylon, and his devices, which he has devised upon the Chaldeans inhabiting it. Surely lambs of their flock shall be destroyed. Surely pasture shall be cut off from them. 46. For at the sound of the taking of Babylon the earth shall quake, and a cry shall be heard among the nations. Jeremiah 51. 1. Thus saith Elohim, Behold, I stir up against Babylon, and against the Chaldeans dwelling therein, a deadly burning wind. 2. And I will send forth against Babylon spoilers, and they shall spoil her, and shall ravage her land. Woe to Babylon round about her in the day of her affliction. 3. Let the archer bend his bow, and him that has armor put it on. And spare ye not a young man, but destroy ye all her host. 4. And slain men shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and men pierced through shall fall without it. 5. For Israel and Judah have not been forsaken of their YEHOVAH, of Elohim Almighty, whereas their land was filled with iniquity against the holy things of Israel. 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every one his soul. And be not overthrown in her iniquity, for it is the time of her retribution from Elohim, he is rendering to her recompense. 7. Babylon has been a golden cup in Elohim's hand, causing all the earth to be drunken. The nations have drunk of her wine, therefore they were shaken. 8. And Babylon is fallen suddenly, and is broken to pieces. Lament for her, take balm for her deadly wound, if by any means she may be healed. 9. We tried to heal Babylon, but she was not healed. Let us forsake her, and depart every one to his own country. For her judgment has reached to the heaven, it is mounted up to the stars. 10. Elohim has brought forth his judgment. Come, and let us declare in Sion the works of Elohim our YEHOVAH. 11. Prepare the arrows, fill the quivers. Elohim has stirred up the spirit of the king of the Medes. For his wrath is against Babylon, to destroy it utterly, for it is Elohim's vengeance, it is the vengeance of his people. 12. Lift up a standard on the walls of Babylon, prepare the quivers, rouse the guards, prepare the weapons. For Elohim has taken the work in hand, and will execute what he has spoken against the inhabitants of Babylon. 13. Dwelling on many waters, and amidst the abundance of her treasures, thine end is come verily into thy bowels. 14. For Elohim has sworn by his arm saying I will fill thee with men as with locusts, and they that come down shall cry against thee. 15. Elohim made the earth by his power, preparing the world by his wisdom, by his understanding he stretched out the heaven. 16. At his voice he makes a sound of water in the heaven, and brings up clouds from the extremity of the earth, he makes lightnings for rain, and brings light out of his treasures. 17. Every man has completely lost understanding, every goldsmith is confounded because of his graven images. For they have cast false gods, there is no breath in them. 18. They are vain works, objects of scorn, in the time of their visitation they shall perish. 19. Not such is Jacob's portion, for he that formed all things, he is his inheritance, Elohim is his name. 20. Thou scatterest for me the weapons of war. And I will scatter nations by thee, and will destroy kings by means of thee. 21. And by thee I will scatter the horse and his rider, and by thee I will scatter chariots and them that ride in them. 22. And by thee I will scatter youth and maid, and by thee I will scatter man and woman. 23. And by thee I will scatter the shepherd and his flock, and by thee I will scatter the husbandman and his husbandry, and by thee I will scatter leaders and the captains. 24. And I will recompense to Babylon and to all the Chaldeans that dwell there all their mischiefs that they have done to Sion before your eyes, saith Elohim. 25. Behold, I am against thee, the ruined mountain, that destroys the whole earth, and I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, and will roll thee down upon the rocks, and will make thee as a burnt mountain. 26. And they shall not take from thee a stone for a corner, nor a stone for a foundation. For thou shalt be a desolation forever, saith Elohim. 27. Lift up a standard in the land, sound the trumpet among the nations, consecrate the nations against her, raise up kings against her by me, and that for the people of Achanes, set against her engines of war, bring up against her horses as a multitude of locusts. 28. Bring up nations against her, even the king of the Medes, and of the whole earth, his rulers, and all his captains. 29. The earth has quaked and been troubled, because the purpose of Elohim has risen up against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation, and uninhabitable. 30. The warrior of Babylon has failed to fight, they shall sit there in the siege, their power is broken, they are become like women, her tabernacles have been set on fire, her bars are broken. 31. One shall rush, running to meet another runner, and one shall go with tidings to meet another with tidings, to bring tidings to the king of Babylon, that his city is taken. 32. At the end of his passages they were taken, and his cisterns they have burnt with fire, and his warriors are going forth. 33. For thus saith Elohim, the houses of the king of Babylon shall be threshed as a floor in the season, yet a little while, and her harvest shall come. 34. He has devoured me, he has torn me asunder, airy darkness has come upon me. Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon has swallowed me up, as a dragon has he filled his belly with my delicacies. 35. My troubles and my distresses have driven me out into Babylon, shall she that dwells in Sion say. And my blood shall be upon the Chaldeans dwelling there, shall Jerusalem say. 36. Therefore thus saith Elohim, behold, I will judge thine adversary, and I will execute vengeance for thee, and I will waste her sea, and dry up her fountain. 37. And Babylon shall be a desolation, and shall not be inhabited. 38. For they rose up together as lions, and as lions' whelps. 39. In their heat I will give them a draught, and make them drunk, that they may be stupefied, and sleep an everlasting sleep, and not awake, saith Elohim. 40. And bring thou them down as lambs to the slaughter, and rams with kids. 41. How has the boast of all the earth been taken and caught in a snare? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? 42. The sea has come up upon Babylon with the sound of its waves, and she is covered. 43. Her cities are become like a dry and trackless land, not so much as one man shall dwell in it, neither shall a son of man lodge in it. 44. And I will take vengeance on Babylon, and bring forth out of her mouth what she has swallowed down, and the nations shall no more be gathered to her. 49. And in Babylon the slain men of all the earth shall fall. 50. Go forth of the land, ye that escape, and stay not, ye that are afar off, remember Elohim, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. 51. We are ashamed, because we have heard our reproach, disgrace has covered our face, aliens are come into our sanctuary, even into the house of Elohim. 52. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Elohim, when I will take vengeance upon her graven images, and slain men shall fall in all her land. 53. For though Babylon should go up as the heaven, and though she should strengthen her walls with her power, from me shall come they that shall destroy her, saith Elohim. 54. A sound of a cry in Babylon, and great destruction in the land of the Chaldeans. 55. For Elohim has utterly destroyed Babylon, and cut off from her the great voice sounding as many waters. He has consigned her voice to destruction. 56. For distress has come upon Babylon, her warriors are taken, their bows are useless. For YEHOVAH recompenses them. 57. Elohim recompenses, and will make her leaders and her wise men and her captains completely drunk, saith the king, Elohim Almighty is his name. 58. Thus saith Elohim, the wall of Babylon was made broad, but it shall be completely broken down, and her high gates shall be burnt with fire, and the peoples shall not labor in vain, nor the nations fail in their rule. 59. The word which Elohim commanded the prophet Jeremias to say to Sarias son of Nerias, son of Masias, when he went from Zedekias king of Judah to Babylon, in the 4th year of his reign. And Sarias was over the bounties. 60. And Jeremias wrote in a book all the evils which should come upon Babylon, even all these words that are written against Babylon. 61. And Jeremias said to Sarias, when thou art come to Babylon, and shalt see and read all these words. 62. Then thou shalt say, O Elohim Jehovah, thou hast spoken against this place, to destroy it, and that there should be none to dwell in it, neither man nor beast, for it shall be a desolation forever. 63. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt cease from reading this book, that thou shalt bind a stone upon it, and cast it into the midst of Euphrates. 64. And shalt say, thus shall Babylon sink, and not rise, because of the evils which I bring upon it.
Proverbs 2-4.
Proverbs 2. 1. My son, if thou wilt receive the utterance of my commandment, and hide it with thee. 2. Thine ear shall hearken to wisdom, thou shalt also apply thine heart to understanding, and shalt apply it to the instruction of thy son. 3. For it thou shalt call to wisdom, and utter thy voice for understanding. 4. And if thou shalt seek it as silver, and search diligently for it as for treasures. 5. Then shalt thou understand the fear of Elohim, and find the knowledge of Jehovah. 6. For Elohim gives wisdom, and from his presence come knowledge and understanding. 7. And he treasures up salvation for them that walk uprightly. He will protect their way. 8. That he may guard the righteous ways. And he will preserve the way of them that fear him. 9. Then shalt thou understand righteousness and judgment, and shalt direct all thy course aright. 10. For if wisdom shall come into thine understanding, and discernment shall seem pleasing to thy soul. 11. Good counsel shall guard thee, and holy understanding shall keep thee. 12. To deliver thee from the evil way, and from the man that speaks nothing faithfully. 13. Alas for those who forsake right paths, to walk in ways of darkness. 14. Who rejoice in evils, and delight in wicked perverseness. 15. Whose paths are crooked, and their courses winding. 16. To remove thee far from the straight way, and to estrange thee from a righteous purpose. My son, let not evil counsel overtake thee. 17. Of her who has forsaken the instruction of her youth, and forgotten the covenant of Yehovah. 18. For she has fixed her house near death, and guided her wheels near Hades with the giants. 19. None that go by her shall return, neither shall they take hold of right paths, for they are not apprehended of the years of life. 20. For had they gone in good paths, they would have found the paths of righteousness easy. 21. For the upright shall dwell in the earth, and the holy shall be left behind in it. 22. The paths of the ungodly shall perish out of the earth, and transgressors shall be driven away from it. Proverbs 3. 1. My son, forget not my laws, but let thine heart keep my words. 2. For length of existence, and years of life, and peace, shall they add to thee. 3. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee, but bind them about thy neck. 4. So shalt thou find favor. And do thou provide things honest in the sight of Elohim, and of men. 5. Trust in Yehovah with all thine heart, and be not exalted in thine own wisdom. 6. In all thy ways acquaint thyself with her, that she may rightly direct thy paths. 7. Be not wise in thine own conceit, but fear Yehovah, and depart from all evil. 8. Then shall there be health to thy body, and good keeping to thy bones. 9. Honor Elohim with thy just labors, and give him the first of thy fruits of righteousness. 10. That thy storehouses may be completely filled with corn, and that thy presses may burst forth with wine. 11. My son, despise not the chastening of Elohim, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him. 12. For whom Elohim loves, he rebukes, and scourges every son whom he receives. 13. Blessed is the man who has found wisdom, and the mortal who knows prudence. 14. For it is better to traffic for her, than for treasures of gold and silver. 15. And she is more valuable than precious stones. No evil thing shall resist her. She is well known to all that approach her, and no precious thing is equal to her in value. 16. For length of existence and years of life are in her right hand, and in her left hand are wealth and glory. Out of her mouth proceeds righteousness, and she carries law and mercy upon her tongue. 17. Her ways are good ways, and all her paths are peaceful. 18. She is a tree of life to all that lay hold upon her, and she is a secure help to all that stay themselves on her, as on Elohim. 19. Yehovah by wisdom founded the earth, and by prudence he prepared the heavens. 20. By understanding were the depths broken up, and the clouds dropped water. 21. My son, let them not pass from thee, but keep my counsel and understanding. 22. That thy soul may live, and that there may be grace round thy neck, and it shall be health to thy flesh, and safety to thy bones. 23. That thou mayest go confidently in peace in all thy ways, and that thy foot may not stumble. 24. For if thou rest, thou shalt be undismayed, and if thou sleep, thou shalt slumber sweetly. 25. And thou shalt not be afraid of alarm coming upon thee, neither of approaching attacks of ungodly men. 26. For Elohim shall be over all thy ways, and shall establish thy foot that thou be not moved. 27. Forbear not to do good to the poor, whensoever thy hand may have power to help him. 28. Say not, come back another time, tomorrow I will give, while thou art able to do him good. For thou knowest not what the next day will bring forth. 29. Devise not evil against thy friend, living near thee and trusting in thee. 30. Be not ready to quarrel with a man without a cause, lest he do thee some harm. 31. Procure not the reproaches of bad men, neither do thou covet their ways. 32. For every transgressor is unclean before Elohim, neither does he sit among the righteous. 33. The curse of Yehovah is in the houses of the ungodly, but the habitations of the just are blessed. 34. Elohim resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. 35. The wise shall inherit glory, but the ungodly have exalted their own dishonor. Proverbs 4. 1. Hear, ye children, the instruction of a father, and attend to know understanding. 2. For I give you a good gift, forsake ye not my law. 3. For I also was a son obedient to my father, and loved in the sight of my mother. 4. Who spoke and instructed me, saying, Let our speech be fixed in thine heart, keep our commandments, forget them not. 5. And do not neglect the speech of my mouth. 6. And forsake it not, and it shall cleave to thee. Love it, and it shall keep thee. 8. Secure it, and it shall exalt thee. Honor it, that it may embrace thee. 9. That it may give unto thy head a crown of graces, and may cover thee with a crown of delight. 10. Hear my son, and receive my words, and the years of thy life shall be increased, that the resources of thy life may be many. 11. For I teach thee the ways of wisdom, and I cause thee to go in right paths. 12. For when thou goest, thy steps shall not be straitened, and when thou runnest, thou shalt not be distressed. 13. Take hold of my instruction, let it not go, but keep it for thyself for thy life. 14. Go not in the ways of the ungodly, neither covet the ways of transgressors. 15. In whatever place they shall pitch their camp, go not thither, but turn from them, and pass away. 16. For they cannot sleep, unless they have done evil. Their sleep is taken away, and they rest not. 17. For these live upon the bread of ungodliness, and are drunken with wine of transgression. 18. But the ways of the righteous shine like light, they go on and shine, until the day be fully come. 19. But the ways of the ungodly are dark, they know not how they stumble. 20. My son, attend to my speech, and apply thine ear to my words. 21. That thy fountains may not fail thee, keep them in thine heart. 22. For they are life to those that find them, and health to all their flesh. 23. Keep thine heart with the utmost care, for out of these are the issues of life. 24. Remove from thee a froward mouth, and put far away from thee unjust lips. 25. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids assent to just things. 26. Make straight paths for thy feet, and order thy ways aright. 27. Turn not aside to the right hand nor to the left, but turn away thy foot from an evil way. For Yehovah knows the ways on the right hand, but those on the left are crooked. And he will make thy ways straight, and will guide thy steps in peace.
Habakkuk 1-3.
Habakkuk 1. 1. The burden which the prophet Habakkuk saw. 2. How long, O Elohim, shall I cry out, and thou wilt not hearken? How long shall I cry out to thee being injured, and thou wilt not save? 3. Wherefore hast thou shown me troubles and griefs to look upon, misery and ungodliness? Judgment is before me, and the judge receives a reward. 4. Therefore the law is frustrated, and judgment proceeds not effectually, for the ungodly man prevails over the just, therefore perverse judgment will proceed. 5. Behold, ye despisers, and look, and wonder marvelously, and vanish. For I work a work in your days, which ye will in no wise believe, though a man declares it to you. 6. Wherefore, behold, I stir up the Chaldeans, the bitter and hasty nation, that walks upon the breadth of the earth, to inherit tabernacles not his own. 7. He is terrible and famous, his judgment shall proceed of himself, and his dignity shall come out of himself. 8. And his horses shall bound more swiftly than leopards, and they are fiercer than the wolves of Arabia. And his horsemen shall ride forth, and shall rush from far, and they shall fly as an eagle hasting to eat. 9. Destruction shall come upon ungodly men, resisting with their adverse front, and he shall gather the captivity as the sand. 10. And he shall be at his ease with kings, and princes are his toys, and he shall mock at every stronghold, and shall cast a mound, and take possession of it. 11. Then shall he change his spirit, and he shall pass through, and make an atonement, saying, This strength belongs to my God. 12. Art not thou from the beginning, O Elohim Yehovah, my Holy One? And surely we shall not die. O Elohim, thou hast established it for judgment, and he has formed me to chasten with his correction. 13. His eye is too pure to behold evil doings, and to look upon grievous afflictions. Wherefore dost thou look upon despisers? Wilt thou be silent when the ungodly swallows up the just? 14. And wilt thou make men as the fishes of the sea, and as the reptiles which have no guide? 15. He has brought up destruction with a hook, and drawn one with a casting net, and caught another in his drags. Therefore shall his heart rejoice and be glad. 16. Therefore will he sacrifice to his drag, and burn incense to his casting net, because by them he has made his portion fat, and his meats choice. 17. Therefore will he cast his net, and will not spare to slay the nations continually. Habakkuk 2. 1. I will stand upon my watch, and mount upon the rock, and watch to see what he will say by me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. 2. And Elohim answered me and said, Write the vision, and that plainly on a tablet, that he that reads it may run. 3. For the vision is yet for a time, and it shall shoot forth at the end, and not in vain. Though he should tarry, wait for him, for he will surely come, and will not tarry. 4. If he should draw back, my soul has no pleasure in him. But the just shall live by my faith. 5. But the arrogant man and discorder, the boastful man, shall not finish anything, who has enlarged his desire as the grave, and like death he is never satisfied, and he will gather to himself all the nations, and will receive to himself all the peoples. 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a proverb to tell against him? And they shall say, Woe to him that multiplies to himself the possessions which are not his. How long? And who heavily loads his yoke? 7. For suddenly there shall arise up those that bite him, and they that plot against thee shall awake, and thou shalt be a plunder to them. 8. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the nations that are left shall spoil thee, because of the blood of men, and the sins of the land and city, and of all that dwell in it. 9. Woe to him that covet. 9. Woe to him that covets an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evils. 10. Thou hast devised shame to thy house, thou hast utterly destroyed many nations, and thy soul has sinned. 11. For the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beetle out of the timber shall speak. 12. Woe to him that builds a city with blood, and establishes a city by unrighteousness. 13. Are not these things of Elohim Almighty? Surely many people have been exhausted in the fire, and many nations have fainted. 14. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of Elohim, it shall cover them as water. 15. Woe to him that gives his neighbor to drink the thick lees of wine, and intoxicates him, that he may look upon their secret parts. 16. Drink thou also thy fill of disgrace instead of glory. Shake, O heart, and quake, the cup of the right hand of Elohim has come round upon thee, and dishonor has gathered upon thy glory. 17. For the ungodliness of Libanus shall cover thee, and distress because of wild beasts shall dismay thee, because of the blood of men, and the sins of the land and city, and of all that dwell in it. 18. What profiteth the graven image, that they have graven it? One has made it a molten work, a false image, for the maker has trusted in his work, to make dumb idols. 19. Woe to him that says to the wood, Awake, arise, and to the stone, Be thou exalted. Whereas it is an image, and this is a casting of gold and silver, and there is no breath in it. 20. But Elohim is in his holy temple. Let all the earth fear before him. Habakkuk 3. 1. A prayer of the prophet Ambacam, with a song. 2. O Elohim, I have heard thy report, and was afraid. I considered thy works, and was amazed. Thou shalt be known between the two living creatures, thou shalt be acknowledged when the years draw nigh, thou shalt be manifested when the time is come, when my soul is troubled, thou wilt in wrath, remember mercy. 3. YEHOVAH shall come from Thaman, and the Holy One from the dark shady Mount Pharan. Pause. 4. His excellence covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. And his brightness shall be as light, there were horns in his hands, and he caused a mighty love of his strength. 5. Before his face shall go a report, and it shall go forth into the plains. 6. The earth stood at his feet and trembled. He beheld, and the nations melted away. The mountains were violently burst through, the everlasting hills melted at his everlasting going forth. 7. Because of troubles I looked upon the tents of the Ethiopians. The tabernacles also of the land of Madiam shall be dismayed. 8. Wast thou angry, O Elohim, with the rivers? Or was thy wrath against the rivers, or thine anger against the sea? For thou wilt mount on thine horses, and thy chariots are salvation. 9. Surely thou didst bend the bow at scepters, saith Elohim. Pause. The land of rivers shall be torn asunder. 10. The nations shall see thee and be in pain as thou dost divide the moving waters. The deep uttered her voice, and raised her form on high. 11. The sun was exalted, and the moon stood still in her course. Thy darts shall go forth at the light, at the brightness of the gleaming of thine arms. 12. Thou wilt bring low the land with threatening, and in wrath thou wilt break down the nations. 13. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people, to save thine anointed. Thou shalt bring death on the heads of transgressors, thou hast brought bands upon their neck. Pause. 14. Thou didst cut asunder the heads of princes with amazement, they shall tremble in it, they shall burst their bridles, they shall be as a poor man devouring in secret. 15. And thou dost cause thine horses to enter the sea, disturbing much water. 16. I watched, and my belly trembled at the sound of the prayer of my lips, and trembling entered into my bones, and my frame was troubled within me. I will rest in the day of affliction, from going up to the people of my sojourning. 17. For though the fig tree shall bear no fruit, and there shall be no produce on the vines, the labor of the olive shall fail, and the field shall produce no food. The sheep have failed from the pasture, and there are no oxen at the cribs. 18. Yet I will exult in Elohim, I will joy in Yehovah my Savior. 19. Elohim Yehovah is my strength, and he will perfectly strengthen my feet, he mounts me upon high places, that I may conquer by his song.
Lamentations 1.
Lamentations 1. 1. And it came to pass, after Israel was taken captive, and Jerusalem made desolate, that Jeremiah sat weeping, and lamented with this lamentation over Jerusalem, and said Aleph. How does the city that was filled with people sit solitary? She is become as a widow. She that was magnified among the nations and princess among the provinces, has become tributary. 2. Beth. She weeps sore in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks, and there is none of all her lovers to comfort her. All that were her friends have dealt deceitfully with her, they are become her enemies. 3. Gimel. Judah is gone into captivity by reason of her affliction, and by reason of the abundance of her servitude. She dwells among the nations, she has not found rest. All her pursuers have overtaken her between her oppressors. 4. Daleth. The ways of Sion mourn, because there are none that come to the feast. All her gates are ruined. Her priests groan, her virgins are led captive, and she is in bitterness in herself. 5. He. Her oppressors are become the head, and her enemies have prospered, for Elohim has afflicted her because of the multitude of her sins. Her young children are gone into captivity before the face of the oppressor. 6. Thou. And all her beauty has been taken away from the daughter of Sion. Her princes were as rams finding no pasture, and are gone away in weakness before the face of the pursuer. 7. Zion. Jerusalem remembered the days of her affliction, and her rejection she thought on all her desirable things which were from the days of old, when her people fell into the hands of the oppressor, and there was none to help her. When her enemies saw it they laughed at her habitation. 8. Heth. Jerusalem has sinned a great sin, therefore has she come into tribulation, all that used to honor her have afflicted her, for they have seen her shame. Yea, she herself groaned, and turned backward. 9. Teth. Her uncleanness is before her feet, she remembered not her last end, she has lowered her boasting tone, there is none to comfort her. Behold, O Elohim, my affliction. For the enemy has magnified himself. 10. Jod. The oppressor has stretched out his hand on all her desirable things. For she has seen the Gentiles entering into her sanctuary concerning whom thou didst command, that they should not enter into thy congregation. 11. Chaff. All her people groan, seeking bread. They have given their desirable things for meat, to restore their soul. Behold, Elohim, and look, for she is become dishonored. 12. Lamed. All ye that pass by the way, turn, and see if there is sorrow like to my sorrow, which has happened to me. Elohim who spoke by me has afflicted me in the day of his fierce anger. 13. Mem. He has sent fire from his lofty habitation, he has brought it into my bones. He has spread a net for my feet, he has turned me back. He has made me desolate and mourning all the day. 14. None. He has watched over my sins, they are twined about my hands, they have come up on my neck. My strength has failed, for Elohim has laid pains on my hands, I shall not be able to stand. 15. Samek. Elohim has cut off all my strong men from the midst of me. He has summoned against me a time for crushing my choice men. Elohim has trodden a winepress for the virgin daughter of Judah. For these things I weep. 16. Ain. Mine eye has poured out water, because he that should comfort me, that should restore my soul, has been removed far from me. My sons have been destroyed, because the enemy has prevailed. 17. Phi. Sion has spread out her hand and there is none to comfort her. Elohim has commanded concerning Jacob, his oppressors are round about him. Jerusalem has become among them as a removed woman. 18. Sada. Elohim is righteous, for I have provoked his mouth. Hear, I pray you, all people, and behold my grief. My virgins and my young men are gone into captivity. 19. Kaf. I called my lovers, but they deceived me. My priests and my elders failed in the city, for they sought meat that they might restore their souls, and found it not. 20. Rex. Behold, O Elohim, for I am afflicted. My belly is troubled, and my heart is turned within me, for I have been grievously rebellious. Abroad the sword has bereaved me, even as death at home. 21. Chison. Hear, I pray you, for I groan. There is none to comfort me. All mine enemies have heard of mine afflictions, and rejoice because thou hast done it. Thou hast brought on the day, thou hast called the time. They are become like to me. 22. Thou. Let all their wickedness come before thy face, and strip them, as they have made a gleaning for all my sins. For my groans are many, and my heart is grieved.